Good evening. Welcome to North West Tonight with Annabelle Tiffin. Our top story, the devastating impact of coercive control. 1 in 5 people in the region say they've been a victim.
He played with my mind. He kept on telling me that I was a worthless person and that nobody else would ever want to go out with me.
New figures show almost a third of people in our region still don't know it's a crime. Also tonight, a hike in your water bills. 7 million United Utilities customers will be affected from April. The rubbish reality of the region's litter crisis is laid bare as we meet the volunteers keeping our streets clean. Step into Shila's world as a colourful new exhibition explores personal stories of Indian migration.
I'm at the Etihad Stadium for a must-win game for Manchester City in the Champions League. If the Blues don't beat Bruges tonight, they're out.
And it's been lovely to have a bit of sunshine on our faces again. He is certainly enjoying it, and there'll be more to come tomorrow. Join me at the end of the programme. I'll have the full forecast.
The horrific case of Kienna Dawes, the young Lancashire mum who took her own life after years of physical and emotional abuse, has once again highlighted domestic abuse. New research has found that 1 in 5 people in the North West have been a victim of coercive control, and half of those didn't know how to get help, leading to urgent calls to raise awareness. Our social affairs correspondent, Abby Jones, has this exclusive report, which contains images and details that some viewers may find disturbing.
When I look back, what I see is at some point he put a noose around my neck, and then as the weeks went by, he slowly tightened the noose. He played with my mind. He kept on telling me that I was a worthless person and that nobody else would ever want to go out with me. And stupidly, he'd worn me down so much that I believed him.
This is Monica, not her real name because she's had to change that and her job and move across the country to Greater Manchester, all to escape her former partner, a man who, to the rest of the world, seemed like the perfect boyfriend.
He was to the outside world. It was just once the front door shut and we were on our own together, that's when he turned into somebody else. So it was phone calls and then checking up on me, turning up at random places to make sure that I was where I was supposed to be. He would tell me what I could and couldn't wear.
Did you feel like you were a prisoner?
Yes, yeah. There were times when, if he was in one of his moods, he'd lock me in the house and I couldn't get out. How it ended, it was Christmas time. He pushed me, I fell backwards into our bathroom, smashed my head, and that's when he started kicking me.
Monica's best friend then hired a van and helped her pack her stuff in a 2-hour window they knew her partner would be out. But she had to leave her house and most of her possessions, and that's why many victims find it so hard to break free.
He knows that I don't have anyone, and he takes everything. He just says because...
Kienna Dawes repeatedly tried to leave her violent fiancé, who subjected her to more than 2 years of emotional abuse and brutal attacks. She went to the police, but Ryan Wellings wasn't locked up when he broke his bail conditions. 4 days later, Kienna left her baby with a friend and took her own life. New research from one of the region's leading family law firms has found 1 in 5 adults in the North West, like Kienna and Monica, have been victims of coercive control. A fifth of those here in a controlling relationship are still in it, higher than the national average, mainly for financial reasons. And nearly half of those surveyed weren't confident how to get help.
It could be that we have more traditional roles, family values, or it could be religious reasons in terms of shame, if someone has to leave a relationship. So it's a concern to me that people can be stuck.
Family law solicitor James Maguire commissioned the research after realising an increasing number of his North West clients were either victims of coercive control or perpetrators.
I mean, I will see a staggering amount of cases where people are spying. They'll be using cameras purposely installed or trackers on cars. Sometimes My clients are broken from this.
Coercive control is an invisible crime hidden behind closed doors. Victims are purposely isolated from friends and family. It's been a criminal offence since 2015, but worryingly, a third of people surveyed in the North West didn't know that.
It's really concerning, and we definitely want people to know that there's help and support out there.
Talk, Listen, Change raises awareness and supports victims across the North. But the Manchester charity also works to educate abusers, tackling, it says, the roots of the problem.
Change does happen and can happen, and we know that it works. Some of our programmes are up to 40 weeks long because change takes a long time. But we absolutely see light bulb moments in people where they change their thoughts and feelings and their attitudes towards their partner, their ex-partner, and really start to understand the impact their behaviours have had on those around them.
There are too many women, and men as well, that suffer in silence, and they know something's wrong, but they don't know what to do about it. And there are plenty of things they can do about it. They can talk to friends, they can talk to family.
Would you say to people there's life on the other side?
Yes, and there's a better life on the other side. It does take time. I lost quite a lot of things financially because they stayed in the house because I never went back. But actually I got my freedom back.
Abby Jones, BBC North West Tonight.
There are details of organisations offering information and support with domestic abuse, and it's available at bbc.co.uk/actionline, or you can call for free at any time to hear recorded information on 0800 888 809, and it's there on your screen. Now, local church leaders are calling for an investigation into an allegation of misconduct against the Bishop of Liverpool to be reopened because they say it wasn't fully investigated at the time. The Right Reverend Dr John Parumbalath was accused of assaulting 2 women by Channel 4 News. He denies the allegations and says he will comply with any investigation. Davinia Ramos has the latest. She's in our newsroom now. Davinia.
Yes, this all came to light last night in a Channel 4 News investigation. In the report, it claimed John Parumbalath is accused of sexually assaulting one woman in Essex when he was Bishop of Bradwell on separate occasions between 2019 and 2023, and sexually harassing another woman. He was interviewed under caution by police last year, but they took no further action. The bishop, who took up the post in Liverpool in 2023, says he's consistently denied the allegations against him and will comply with any further investigation as he takes safeguarding very seriously. The Church of England says its own investigation found no ongoing safeguarding concerns. Today, the Diocese of Liverpool, which is the district that the Bishop of Liverpool serves under, has issued a letter saying it was shocked and saddened by the allegations made in the Channel 4 report. They acknowledge that the police investigation resulted in no action, and the safeguarding review found some allegations unsubstantiated. However, they say that they understand that an allegation of misconduct made against the bishop was not fully investigated by the authorities at the time and needs looking into again in the interests of justice. Annabelle.
Davi, thanks very much. Right, let's get a roundup of some of the day's other news now. And Sacha Lord has resigned as Greater Manchester's nighttime economy advisor after the Arts Council said it was seeking to recover a £400,000 grant given to an events company he co-owned. The money was awarded to Primary Events Solutions during the pandemic, but there was an investigation into how the money was spent. Mr Lord said the funds were used appropriately, but there had been a small number of unintended oversights. Council tax bills are expected to go up by 5% in Blackpool as the council announced plans to make almost £9 million of savings. The authority says no jobs will be lost and the savings will mostly come from adult social care and children's services. The fracking company Quadrilla says it will begin plugging the 2 shale gas wells at its Preston New Road site in Lancashire and removing the last of its equipment next month. Fracking was banned at the site in 2019 after a series of tremors. Quadrilla was originally told to fill in the wells by June last year, but the deadline has been extended several times. And doctors on the Isle of Man have accepted an 8% pay rise, which will bring an end to planned strikes. 91% of the doctors voted to accept the pay offer by Manx Care. Higher bills in return for cleaner water. That was the deal agreed by water companies with the industry regulator last year. But what does that mean for customers? Well, for us living in the North West, it could mean higher bills. Eunice Miller has the details for us. Eunice.
Thanks, Annabelle. For United Utilities' 7 million customers, bills will go up by 32% over the next 5 years, starting with an average rise of £86 this April. Then, lower rises in the following years. Almost £13 billion will go on infrastructure such as pipes, sewers, reservoirs, with a focus on tackling pollution. United Utilities says it will be the largest investment in water and wastewater infrastructure in over 100 years, and financial support for 1 in 6 households. Consumer groups want to see real progress.
It's really important that the companies actually deliver this and are held to account to make sure that they do deliver. So a lot of these are new statutory obligations, so it's things that companies have to do, but we want to make sure they spend the money wisely and spend it where it's needed and make sure they actually deliver on their promises.
United Utilities has faced criticism over pollution, such as the effects of raw sewage getting into Windermere. The company didn't have anyone available today, but its head of sustainability, Chris Matthews, did speak to us last October.
What we're looking to do is to change the way a system that's been designed for many, many years. We're going to change that because that's what people want us to do. To make that change, to replumb the North West drainage network, will take time, it will take money, it will take huge resources, and that's a commitment we're making to make that change.
Now, although householders will have to pay more, shareholders will see increased dividends because of inflation. I spoke to people in Blackburn.
Why don't they take that out of the money we already give them and stop giving profits to people that don't need them?
Businesses, they're making money, so as everybody does, the prices do go up, but it's something that we need and it's a necessity.
It does need to be done, but at the same time they pay a lot of big bonuses to the bosses.
There's nothing we can do about it, just grin and bear it.
Just one more thing to add, that figure of £86 that I gave you earlier could change. The current calculations don't factor in inflation. We'll get a more detailed breakdown tomorrow. Thanks, Annabelle.
Eunice, thanks very much. Now, the country is in the midst of a litter crisis. That is according to Keep Britain Tidy. We've been told for decades, haven't we, to put our rubbish away, but for some people, the message just isn't getting through, and the North West is no exception. Ian Haslam has been out with some litter pickers in Manchester.
Keep Britain Tidy has been putting out its anti-littering message for decades. Its aim has always been to eliminate litter now and for future generations.
Drop it in the bin.
It certainly inspired volunteer groups like the Moss Side Eco Squad, founded 5 years ago by Hafsa.
It is worrying, and people always ask, is it making a difference, or do you not think you're doing the same thing over and over again? And it can be disheartening sometimes, but there's a moment where I realised that it was bigger than just litter picking or making the streets tidy. It was just about community building.
Moss Side Eco Squad, it sounds like the Expendables. How difficult a job is this? Because it's a never-ending job, isn't it?
It's pretty much, well, it is never-ending. I mean, there are some parts of the ward that are much, much worse than others, where it's loads of small terrace houses, many of which have been taken over by landlords, and the landlords then fill them with 5 or 6 or 7 people. There's not enough bin capacity. A, there's more rubbish, and B, there's less people around long-term to look after it.
And the area is far from unique in that respect, according to a new Keep Britain Tidy survey.
Litter is pretty much everywhere. It's in 91 of 100 sites that we surveyed. It is about consumption, but it's also about behaviour and people taking responsibility and not thinking that it's the responsibility of local government to clear up after them. Because remember, that's a cost to all of us as the taxpayer.
Doing his bit to help out is Barney Bezic from Wythenshawe Waste Warriors. You are doing your warrior duty right now, picking up litter here from the streets.
We're doing our best. The initial problem is with the people who drop it. Let's not pull any punches with that.
They say that this is happening worse in deprived areas of the country. What is the problem like here in Wythenshawe?
I suppose it's as bad as anywhere else. I've seen areas of inner Manchester where they've got alleyways, and they're absolutely chock-a-block with litter. We've got more space to drop it here.
What do you think the council here in Manchester should now do to try and help the situation?
It would certainly help if they could maybe prioritise litter a bit more, because it is a big problem.
The City Council says it's tackling littering and has formed Keep Manchester Tidy in partnership with Keep Britain Tidy. Are you fighting a losing battle, or is it a battle you can win?
I strongly believe it is a battle that we can win. I think particularly in areas like this, there is a strong community and there are a lot of people that really want to do something about the litter, and we're working with those people to make a difference.
Which in this case was collecting 6 bags of rubbish in about half an hour. Ian Haslam, BBC North West Tonight.
That's a lot of rubbish, isn't it? Not like this. This is absolutely immaculate, isn't it? Our region is home to one of the fastest changing stretches of coastline in the country in the shape of the stunning Formby dunes. But along one section of the beach, the natural dynamic movement of the dunes is affected by a huge amount of rubble under a part of the Sefton coast. So for the next year or so, a huge conservation operation by the National Trust will remove the rubble, which came from wartime barracks demolished decades ago, as Phil Chapman reports.
Since the 1960s, the National Trust has protected and nurtured this wild and beautiful stretch of coastline at Formby, just a few miles north of Liverpool. And now, after a successful planning appeal to remove a vast amount of rubble underneath, this much treasured beach and the rare sand dune habitat behind it will be even more stunning.
This is the remains of Harrington Barracks. It was taken down in the 1960s and placed here to be later used as a sub-base for a car park by the National Trust. And it is full of all sorts of different types of waste.
Well, visitors to the beach over there can't help but notice the sheer amount of rubble that's spilling out onto the sand, but they might also be surprised to hear that it extends all the way back here to the car park to a depth of around 2 metres.
As you can see, the weather's quite bad, so a lot of the time some of it will, become exposed, and a lot more of it will come back up. There was a rumour going around that it was from the Blitz, and it was where there was bombing in Liverpool, and what they did is they just dumped the rubble here, but of course that's not what it is. It's, from the army barracks and demolition of that.
What we're looking to do next year is to remove this car park, remove all of the rubble, and restore this to sand dunes. By doing that work, we'll be making this beach much tidier, much nicer for visitors to come and see, and we'll be able to reconnect all of this sand dune habitat and create a wonderful home for sand lizards and natterjack toads as well.
And the temporary lack of access and parking along this part of the beach as the work gets underway should be a relatively small price to pay for the restoration benefits visitors can enjoy from spring next year. Phil Chapman, BBC North West Tonight, Formby.
It still looks beautiful, though, doesn't it? On to sport now, and there is a huge game for Manchester City in the Champions League tonight at the Etihad Stadium. Richard is there for us, and Richard, it all comes down, doesn't it, to the last game in the group stage. And the Blues, I mean, is it fair to say they're in severe danger of going out, aren't they?
They are, Annabelle. This is crunch time for Manchester City tonight in this new format of the Champions League. As you will know, everybody in this one big league, and all of the matches, as you say, at the same time tonight. The equation for City is simple. If they win, they're through to a playoff to get through to the last 16. If they lose, they are out. So it really is all on the line for the Blues tonight. We had some drama in the lead up to the game outside the stadium tonight as well. I think you can see pictures now. A merchandise stall set on fire, unfortunately. The fire crews, though, really did come quickly. It is now out, happened about an hour ago, and thankfully nobody was hurt. So that all ended without anybody being injured, thankfully. We can all concentrate on the drama in the stadium tonight, with Manchester City facing Bruges, who actually on a really good run of form, unbeaten in 20 matches, the Belgian side. But City's boss, for one, is confident that his team will do it tonight.
I'm not thinking about that right now. So I know for all the people concerned about what's going to happen in qualifying, I appreciate it, your concern, and all of you to don't qualify, but I'm thinking we're going to do it.
Well, that's what Pep Guardiola thinks. What about the supporters? I think they will be buoyed by the 3 recent signings in the transfer window. Also, City seem to have rediscovered, don't they, some of their old sharpness. And certainly most City fans I've spoken to on their way to the game think the Blues will do it tonight.
Of course we will. I think they're going to win. I'm hopeful.
You nervous?
No. I'm confident they're going to win.
They've obviously had a little bit of a blip, but overall, they're going to just turn up. They turn up at the big occasions, and this when they don't need to turn up.
I'm a bit nervous. I think we'll win, though. I'm going. I think there'll be goals. I think it'll be 5-2.
As for Liverpool, there won't be any nail-biting for the Reds tonight as they face PSV. They're top of the table. They could only finish as low as second, so they'll be pretty confident. Arne Slot has said that he is prioritising the Premier League, a game against Bournemouth. You can't blame him, can you? He's also said, though, as you would imagine, that he would like to finish with a victory after this group stage. Best of luck to the Reds and to City tonight. One good sign as well, Erling Haaland has 4 goals against Bruges in his career. What's the betting he might get another tonight? Let's hope he does. From the Etihad Stadium, Annabelle, back to you.
Richard, thanks very much. Now, a new exhibition opens at the Imperial War Museum in Trafford Park tomorrow, which looks at the experience of Indian families who migrated to the UK. It's based on the work of the Liverpool-born artist Shyla Berman, whose father came to England in 1954. But it's also a reflection on how families deal with the aftermath of war. Andy Gill's report contains some flashing images.
A film called Disobey is one of the elements of Shyla Berman's new show at the Imperial War Museum North. Disobey, a reference to Indian resistance to British colonial rule.
If we didn't disobey, disobey their power comes from our obedience. If we didn't disobey in Charleston, we might still be stuck there.
The Second World War and the partition of British India into independent Hindu-majority India and independent Muslim-majority Pakistan provide the political backdrop to this show. But it's also a deeply personal story of how Shyla's father came to the UK in 1954. He worked at the Dunlop factory in Liverpool at first. Then he and relatives from India ran ice cream vans on local beaches.
Sent a message to the village in India and said to everybody who, just like my dad, had never been to school that much, and says, come to Liverpool, I'll get you an ice cream van, because ice cream vans are built in Crewe. So lots of families turned up here, at least a dozen, and my dad housed them.
This exhibition is part of an Imperial War Museum programme looking at how people were affected by the aftermath of conflict.
At the very heart of this show is the story of Shyla's family, and in particular Shyla's father. We have a sound recording that Shyla's father made in the early 1990s, in which he discusses his experience in India during the Second World War, when he worked for the Dunlop factory there, when he was a tailor for the Indian Army.
This is also Shyla's mother's story. Here, a neon version of the corner clothes shop she ran in Waterloo, just north of Liverpool.
So it's really a story about how they became entrepreneurs and how they recreated their lives here, quite imaginatively.
Shyla Welcomes You is on at the Imperial War Museum North until the end of August. Andy Gill, BBC North West Tonight.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Very colourful, which, let's be frank, so has the weather been today. Look at these colours. What a beautiful change from all that horrible weather we've had.
Last week, yeah, I know. So lovely to see a bit of sunshine today. Beautiful blue skies for many of us. He certainly seems to be enjoying himself, and more to come on the way. So, yeah, as I mentioned, more sunshine over the next few days. In fact, tomorrow, the best day in terms of the sun for this week, but it will get a tad chillier, especially overnight, and it will be a frosty start tomorrow. And this is why, so you can see we have got a cooler air mass, although we do have high pressure as well, a ridge of high pressure, so we will have settled, calm conditions for the next couple of days, but it will be a tad nippy, especially overnight tonight. So you can see there will be clear skies, there will be some showers where there is some cloud, but these will be few and far between, mainly coastal areas in the Isle of Man. But temperatures down to around -2, could get lower than that. So there will be widespread frost overnight, and it'll be a frosty start tomorrow. But you can see plenty of brighter spells too. Lots of wintry sunshine tomorrow. There will be the odd isolated shower where there is some cloud, but these will be especially isolated. We're looking at around 5 degrees Celsius, so that's a couple of degrees lower than the average for this time of year. And then overnight into Friday, you can see we have got a weather front coming in. That is going to bring some rain and some snow on higher ground. But it will be fast moving. And by Friday, this is the outlook. So plenty of dry weather, a variable cloud, but plenty of sunshine too, Annabelle. So not a bad outlook at all.
It's not too bad, no. And as we said, it does make a bit of a change because we've been talking about named storms, haven't we?
We have, yes.
Endlessly. You know how Kay loves her wild water swimming.
She does.
I'm meant to be doing some of that at the weekend, so I was very anxious to see what it was going to be like. But
good luck.
Fingers
Rather
crossed.
you than me.
I know. I think I might dip out of that one. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. We're back at 10:30. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.